Welcome to our presentation on AB 1482 and the Salinas Rent Stabilization Ordinance. Before we get completely into it, I want to thank all of you guys for coming and being patient. And I do want to introduce someone. He is our council member from District 4, and his name, District 5, and his name is Andrew Sandoval.
Thank you. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Andrés Sandoval. Soy el representante del Distrito 5. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Sandoval, and I'm the City Council member representing District 5. I'm very excited. Thank you to Echo Housing and the Housing Resource Center for being here. This is the first of this kind here in Salinas, and I'm sure there's going to be a series of these, but I think this is really going to serve as a valuable resource to teach our community more about these ordinances and state law. Me da gusto que todos estén aquí. Le quiero dar la gracia a Eco Housing y el Housing Resource Center por estar aquí. Este es el primer evento como de ese tipo y va a ser una chance para que la comunidad aprenda más, no nomás del estado, pero de las ordenanzas locales. So, muchas gracias a todos por venir. Thank you.
And now I would like to also introduce some of our resources that we have brought with us. The first one I would like to introduce is the City of Salinas.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aquantis. I work within the Rent Stabilization and Rental Registration Division for the city. I will be talking with you all about the Rent Stabilization Ordinance and the other rental-related ordinances tonight.
My name's Dave. I'm with the Housing Resource Center in Monterey County. We're a local nonprofit that provides housing for the homeless in Monterey County. My main focus is working with landlords. That's what I do. So I'm not just the pretty face you see up there. But I am here to help, we're here to help citizens of Monterey County find housing. So if you're a landlord, we definitely would love to talk to you, see how we can work with you. We have some great programs for landlords. We actually house just Monterey County residents. So we do have to be a resident of Monterey County, of course, to work with you. So if you're wondering, hey, do they do other areas? No, we just do Monterey County. So that's a good thing, actually. So we're solely focused on this county. And so like I said, after if you get a chance, come over and talk to us, grab a pen, have some information. If you know someone that is a landlord that would really like to be a part of helping reduce homelessness in Monterey County, you can also give them my number. We have business cards here, and we'd love to talk to them. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. And my name is Fernando Galindo, and I am the housing counselor for Monterey County for Echo Housing. And today we're going to start this presentation talking about AB 1482 and what that is and how it comes together with our Salinas Rent Stabilization Ordinance and how the ordinance actually gave us more protections over rent increases and just cause evictions, anti-harassment. We're going to talk about that today, and hopefully with this presentation everyone will be able to understand a little bit more about AB 1482 and more specifically the Salinas Rent Stabilization Ordinance. So where we're going to start is with this AB 1482, and this got started back in 2019 to give protections against unjust evictions and rent hikes that were happening at the time. So we got together, and this bill was proposed and adopted in 2019, and it was designed to prevent people from getting rent gouged and unjust evictions. And it applies to many rental units all throughout the state.
All right, so the Rent Stabilization Ordinance was adopted on, I believe, September 24th of last year. And it went into effect January 1st of this year. The Rent Stabilization Ordinance limits the amount and the frequency in which your rent can be raised. So with the Rent Stabilization Ordinance, your rent can only be raised once per year. Also, it allows for petitions for rent increases and rent reductions. So if a tenant has experienced a rent increase that is outside the allowable amount, they have the ability to petition to the city. Myself and my colleagues review that. And if someone, like your landlord, has done significant modifications to the property, as well as not getting their fair return, they can also petition to the city for that too.
And then we want to know who is covered under AB 1482. And the people that are covered, the units that are covered, they were all built prior to 2005. And tenants with 12 months or more were protected under ordinance or AB 1482. But it applies also to people that are on a fixed lease or a month-to-month lease as well. But that 12-month period is what's key. After the 12 months, that's when you're protected by AB 1482, and you gain more protections from being evicted unjustly. Anyone who wants to evict you must provide a reason, or you must not have paid your rents, or you must have violated your lease. But those are the reasons that somebody could be evicted. Some of the exemptions to AB 1482 are single-family houses, if not owned by a corporation, and the tenant is notified. That is another key thing, is that you must be notified if you are covered under AB 1482. If you are not notified that you are covered, there could be different little caveats to this where a notice might not be just. So these are the important things that need to happen for you to be covered or are protected by AB 1482. And the new construction of homes in the last 15 years, if you're in a new home that is less than 15 years old, you will not be covered. It's beyond 15 years before you are covered. So it's a little bit more towards the older homes. And if you live in a duplex and the owner also resides in one of the duplex units, they could be exempt from the protections of this AB 1482. Affordable housing, it could be protected, but it has restrictions to this. So like I said, there's many little areas that you have to look at to be sure if you're covered under AB 1482.
All right, for rent stabilized units, meaning multifamily dwellings built prior to February 1st, 1995, you would have limits on how many times your rent can increase and the amount. The exemptions for that, though, are if you live in a single-family home, a condo, the owner lives in one of the units of a property, or excuse me, let me clear that up. So for example, if there is a single-family home and an ADU on the same property, if the owner lives in either one of those units, the one that the owner lives in would be exempt, but they would need to make sure that they follow the regulations, again, if it is built before February 1st, 1995. Also, if you are renting a room, which is a unit where the tenant and the landlord share kitchen and bathroom space, again, that is exempt from rent stabilization.
And now, what are just cause evictions, and how are we protected by those with AB 1482? At fault evictions, that's a fault of the tenant. So a thing that could be a tenant's fault and cause an eviction could be non-payment of rents. You could have breached or broken your lease in some way. There's a criminal, or more than a nuisance, in a criminal activity way where police are coming to your home, often enough where it's now kind of uncomfortable for the landlord. The landlord could use that as a reason to evict you, as well as refusal to sign or extend your lease. If they ask you to, if you're willing to stay and they want to give you a new lease, but you don't want to sign the lease, that could be a reason for the landlord to terminate that. Unauthorized subletting, that is a renter, a tenant renting to another tenant. Some leases will say that you cannot do that, but we are also going to use that as a just cause eviction reason. And denying lawful entry, that is in almost every single lease that the landlord can come over and give you 24-hour notice that they are going to enter the unit. And if they come after that 24 hours and you say, no, I don't want to let you in. If you do that quite a few times, that could be a reason that they can terminate your lease. So these are just cause reasons. And the rent stabilization ordinance, it provides even more protection than what AB 1482 does. Now, we're going to talk about no-fault evictions, and that is an eviction where the tenant, they didn't do anything wrong. So some of the no-fault reasons could be under AB 1482. It could be because the owner or family, or a member of the family from the owner is going to move into the unit. The landlord could say, I'm going to have a family member move in, I need you to leave. And that is actually a reason that they could use to have a tenant leave when the tenant didn't do anything wrong. The landlord could be deciding to take all of their rental units off of the market and stop being a landlord. And if they choose to do that, they can say, I'm not going to be a landlord anymore, and I'm going to terminate the lease. They could do that. There's a government order to vacate. That's a little bit more complicated. But a severe remodel, something that is going to keep a tenant out of the home, and sometimes out of the home past 30 days. That could be a reason to terminate the lease, that they are going to do major remodeling, major renovations, and this is something that can't go on with the tenant there. That could be a reason to have somebody leave the unit when they didn't do anything wrong. But the tenant does have rights. Most receive a 60-day notice of being evicted for no-fault evictions. And the landlord, they have to do something for the tenant because the tenant didn't do anything wrong, and the landlord has to pay relocation fees, not fees, but it's equal to 1 month's rent under AB 1482 that they have to help you with that for you to move on to another unit. And most of the time what happens when the landlord is to give 1 month's rent back to the tenant is what they'll do is they'll waive the last month's rent. That's usually what they do.
Just to clear some things up before we continue, with the rent stabilization ordinance, 2 other ordinances were adopted at the same time. And that was the just cause eviction and tenant protection ordinance, as well as the tenant anti-harassment ordinance. So this is where these items come from. With no-fault evictions for the city of Salinas, there are 2 reasons. That's owner move-in, whether it be themselves or a family member by blood or adoption, and substantial remodeling of that unit that's going to keep you out of that unit for more than 30 days. Now with that, 60 days notice is required, as well as relocation assistance at 3 months versus the 1 month that the state has. So that would be 3 months worth of rent at that current time. And then we do have also, like I mentioned, the tenant anti-harassment protections, which, for example, if you have reported to code enforcement that your home is uninhabitable and the owner is being made to make substantial repairs that's going to keep you out of that home for more than 30 days, that protects you from not being able to come back to that home after those repairs are done.
Now, there is a max amount that a rental increase can be through the state under AB 1482. We have the annual rent increase limit. For the state, it is 5% plus the current CPI. That's the inflation percent that we use. And currently, it is at 2.1%. That's going to be all year long, all 12 months. And when you add that 2.1% to the 5, we come up with a maximum increase of 7.1%. That is the minimum, and that is the one that we're going to use. It could, if it went higher than 10% with the current CPI, it would be capped off at 10%. That would be the absolute max. But right now, we are at 7.1 for all of Monterey County minus anybody that falls under the rent stabilization ordinance. Rent can be raised twice a year or 2 times per year, but the total must remain within the cap. So what that means is somebody could give an increase of 5%, and later that year give the additional 2.1%, which would give you the max of 7.1%. That is allowed, but they can't give you 7.1% and another 7.1% and try to do it that way. So as long as throughout the entire year it does not exceed 7.1% this year, that would be a valid increase.
Do they have to let you know that when you sign your lease, or before you sign your lease? Do they have to let you know all this?
So you would have to have lived in your unit for at least 1 year before you would be protected under AB 1482, and that increase, because you sign like a 1-year lease, after that they cannot exceed that 7.1% for the next year, for that coming year. But they do have to let you know. If it is only an increase of 7.1%, you are supposed to be given a 30-day notice. Okay, they have to give that to you. Yes?
So, say you sign the contract and you still can increase, even though you signed the contract?
Not within that lease. No. Yeah, it would wait until like that lease expired. Once you've had that 1 year, then that's when you would raise it.
Okay. Under the rent stabilization ordinance, it allows for landlords to increase the rent once per year, so a 12-month period, and it has to be 2.75 or 75% of the most recent 12-month CPI. Now I know, dealing with people on an everyday basis, I've had a lot of questions about this. We have provided a calculator on our website to help everyone calculate the numbers on where their rent would be increased. And of course, myself and my colleagues that work within the division are always available to all tenants, all landlords, all public who are interested in knowing how much the rent can increase for their specific unit in Salinas.
So what tenants and property owners should take from this is more to be aware. We want to understand our rights and our responsibilities. If we did, things would go smoother. We would understand, we would give proper notice when given. We wouldn't be making mistakes where we're overcharging people for rent. If you feel that your rent is being increased to a level that it shouldn't be, or if you've got an eviction notice and you don't agree with the reason, you can always contact legal assistance. There are legal aids available, and you can also call a housing counselor or a member of the city and ask. That's the important thing, is to ask questions. We need to know. This is not something that everyone just knows. So ask questions. Call somebody. If you get a notice, call somebody, because most of those notices have an amount of days on it. So once those days go by, that could be a period of time where at the end you might have to leave your unit. So don't wait, ask questions right away. Another thing is to monitor when the last rent increase that you received was, because remember, it has to be 2 times is the max under AB 1482 per year, and only 1 time a year for the rent stabilization. So you want to keep track of that, you know, making sure that it has been at least 12 months. And the consumer price index, that's the percentage that's used to measure the max increase. We want to know what that number is. We want to make sure that the calculation that a property owner could be using when they increase your rent, we want to make sure that that is correct. Any communication between a tenant and a landlord, or a tenant and a property owner, you want to keep that. You want to keep all communications somewhere in a journal or, you know, messages on your phone. You want to be able to keep those so that you are aware of anything that the property owner has promised or said was going to be done. That way we know if it came to a point where you're now getting evicted, you have all of your documentation, your proof of what was happening prior. That is really important. And then for a tenant or a property manager who thinks that they are not receiving adequate compensation for renting a unit, or if they feel like they have received a rental increase that is too high, both parties can actually talk to the city and request an exemption. So if you feel that it's something that is too much rent, you can contact the city. They have the forms online, and they can help you with filling them out to possibly get exempted from that rent increase. Okay.
It was stated that AB 1482 will be sunsetting in 5 years.
2030.
2030. Is there already, what should we expect after 2030? And also, who are the agencies that are responsible for overseeing AB 1482 in Monterey County?
In Monterey County specifically, that would be a state thing.
So it would be a state office that would come and regulate county, anybody who's violating in this county,
Well,
AB
it's-
1482?
Yeah, because it's a state law.
So I think that's kind of a difficult question to answer right now. Obviously, local municipalities, cities across the state have their regulations as well as the state. As far as AB 1482, we would be depending on our state legislator or legislatures in Congress to make sure that it continues, or again, if it does sunset and it goes away 100%, local municipalities will be responsible for that. As far as our city, I'm here, Vincent is here, Lauda's here, Echo's here, CRLA. There's a lot of different organizations that are able to help with any tenant or landlord relationships, problems, etc. So I don't want to, I guess, have a super deep conversation about that because we're not there yet, but it's definitely good to talk about.
If you do have questions, if you need help, we're up here. There's people here that can help you. At Echo, we can help you with tenant and property owner issues, counseling, mediations. We can try to help you understand your rights. That's what we're here for. We're trying to make sure everybody's aware. That way, we're not going through this aggravated stress of the issue not being handled properly, where someone is getting an increase that's too high. Well, it shouldn't happen. Okay? We want to make sure people are aware of what their rights are and what the maximum increases, what just cause evictions are. We want to help people understand those. And then we have the city of Salinas. We just heard from Apontes right now. They are there to answer questions. Call them. They have a website that has all kinds of documentation on this stabilization ordinance, and it's on there. You can see it. The rental calculator is on there. You can use it. You can see what the allowable increase is. And then we have the Housing Resource Center. We heard from David a little while ago. He can help you if it gets beyond that point, beyond that eviction point, or, you know, they can help you find the next step after an eviction. And then also we have the California Rural Legal Assistance. We just call it CRLA. They are an agency that can help with legal matters in case you are being unjustly evicted, in case you haven't received your deposit. Those are issues that we actually send a lot of people over to CRLA for. We also have Fair Housing Resources. Fair housing is discrimination. Being discriminated against based off of your race, your color, your age, your marital status, your familial status, anything like that where you feel discriminated, you can talk to a fair housing counselor. We can help you with that as well. And then there's also local legal aid clinics as well that you can go and get self-help. Okay, there are options out there, but remember, a lot of these notices that a tenant can receive, there's a date on there, so we need to act fast.
Tengo dos preguntas. Una de esas es de asistencia de 3 meses. ¿Aplica a ciertas casas individuales? Porque sabemos que bajo 1482 a eso aplica el año 1995 para atrás multifamiliar, pero no aplica a casa individual. Pero bajo esta ordenanza local, si eso aplica a algunas casas individuales.
So the question he has is regarding single-family homes. So under AB 1482, it is not covered under there. Single-family homes are not covered under the ordinance, under the AB 1482. So he is asking if that is the same with the City of Salinas' ordinances.
So, as we mentioned, single-family homes are exempt from the rent stabilization ordinance. With AB 1482, if it is owned by a person that is not a part of a corporation or an LLC, it is also exempt. So you would not have the same protections as others do.
But the just cause eviction does apply to houses.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just cause eviction does apply to single-family homes.
The 3 months credit does apply to houses too.
Yes, so the just cause eviction applies to single-family homes. But I believe what I heard you mention is the rent increase limits. But yes, you would be required, or your landlord will be required to give you 3 months of relocation if there is a no-fault eviction. So that is if the owner or a relative of theirs is moving into the home, or they're having you leave to have major repairs done.
La otra es de las utilidades como basura, alumbrado público, fuera, el área común y el agua. Eso no está claro, pero no sé si bajo la ordenanza cae eso, ordenanza local.
So what he's asking is utilities like garbage and water that are normally covered under like leases, right, that the property owner may or may not pay, but now they're getting, let's say, charged, or they're getting charged for electricity in the common area and the parking lot. Is that covered under the ordinance?
Yes.
C. Okay.
So just to clear it up, for the rent stabilization ordinances, if we look at the definitions, it includes everything you pay for the right to live there. So let's say you're getting a notice that your rent is going to increase, and also utilities, maybe parking, etc. That would need to still fall within the 2.75 or the 75% of the CPI. Now, One of the things, as far as if it's a multifamily unit, it needs to also have the utilities separately and individually metered. If it is not, they can't charge you. Your landlord may not charge you for that based on the regulations of the rent stabilization ordinance.
Any services and any, say, options that were part of your lease and now they raise your rents, but then they also take away services? Taking away of services is actually a rent increase. So that's something else that, the little things that we need to know that could affect and see if that rent increase is valid or not. Those are the things that we want to check.
And just as an added comment, for if you have a reduction in housing services, you have the ability to submit a petition to the city. We would give your landlord then 30 days to respond to that and then send it to a hearing officer. So again, like Fernando said, that is considered an increase in rent. So I always recommend in any situation, you reach out to the city, because myself or anyone else in my division will have a conversation with you about your situation. And typically what we recommend is you have a conversation with your landlord, or vice versa. So if a landlord is having issues, have a conversation with the opposite party. You're not enemies, you all have a contract, you're doing business together. So we always encourage you all to talk with one another, but again, sometimes people may not feel comfortable doing that. So I always offer to call on your behalf, or the last resort, of course, is to submit a petition and get our hearing officer involved after each party has the opportunity to respond. But again, if you do have issues, I always will encourage you to talk to your landlord or your tenant to try and solve that between you all amicably.
Porque aquí traigo una historia de una corporación muy grande. El parque está cobrando 60, otro parque más $95, que el agua y basura $60. Es por esa razón estoy haciendo esa pregunta.
Señor, si usted quiere, mañana Fernando puede hablar con usted sobre esta carta que agarró y te lo puede explicar y podemos mirar qué son los espacios que puede obtener si es una carta que no es válido. So, tenemos que mirar todo. Te vamos a preguntar también por una copia de tu contrato que has firmado y mirar si ellos te dieron algo para decir, ok, ya vamos a empezar a hacer esto también. So, hay leyes contra cuántos días te tienen que dar esa información. Okay. So he had a question about this letter that he received. So I let him know that Fernando can speak with him tomorrow to let him know what his options are, to make sure that that is exactly what they can do as property owners. And then also, we're going to ask to see a copy of his lease, because the lease is going to tell us exactly what it is. And if they did not give him an addendum to the lease, then this could be invalid.
Correct.
They have to follow the process.
Correct.
So that's what I let him know.
And all of those choices on there, the Fair Housing Resources is probably the one that I would need. I'm doing a civil rights for discrimination, housing discrimination, harassment, all those things that the civil rights sent me a copy on my phone. And so I'm going to take it to, they're going to look it over for me after but I need someone to help me fill out the paperwork, to do the paperwork. And I have everything journaled and all that stuff. And, you know, just I have everything. I just need to get it all together and prepare it. And I need someone just to help me to fill out the civil rights papers and send it to them to see whether or not they're going to continue on with the discrimination lawsuit that I have.
Yes, that is something that we can actually go over with you.
Okay.
And we can make sure that everything, all the details are there.
Do you have the phone number?
Give you department.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, thank you.
The other thing we want to share with you is through the graciousness of the city of Salinas, they actually gave us a little pot of money where if your question is more of a legal nature, we have an in-house attorney that can answer any of those questions for you.
Oh, good.
So my counselors are not lawyers,
Yeah.
but we have somebody who can answer those questions. And maybe CRLA is very impacted, and it's just maybe a simple letter or maybe just a call. So we also have that resource now here in the city of Salinas. So lo que yo les dije es que la ciudad de Salinas nos dio dinero, no mucho, pero dinero para si necesitas algo que es más legal y necesitas un abogado que te puede ayudar una vez para si tienes una pregunta te puedes decir lo que puedes hacer o a lo mejor nomás tiene que hablar al propiedad para mirar lo que necesitas, porque a veces, aunque nuestras consejerías de vivienda que tengo no somos abogados y a veces los dueños no nos hacen caso, pero si el abogado les habla, aunque nos decimos la misma cosa, ¿verdad? Es diferente. So, eso es un servicio que nosotros también te podemos ofrecer si miramos tu caso y es algo que necesitas.
And the service for, like CRLA has requirements for income, but with the attorney service that you guys are offering the one time, is there any requirements or can anybody use it?
We don't have any restrictions, any limitations. Anybody undocumented, documented, we can help with that. It's something that we don't have.
It's just for my parents. They're both retired and they are renting an apartment complex. They don't have cars, and we've tried to talk to the apartment managers of the office, which, by the way, we cannot talk to them on phone, on person. It's all due now on online, or and they're not very educated to use the computer. So we have to help us, sons or daughters, we have to help them out. But anyways, the curiosity, we don't have to answer the question, but they are forced to pay a parking lot, even though they don't have no cars, they're elders, and it's been more than a year, and I've been trying to do that, but it just bounces back with no response. So it's just, we don't have to answer it, but we can talk for sure, but I think that's unfair for them to pay a parking lot, which, by the way, as I said, they don't drive, they don't have no driving license.
But they don't benefit from that at
Yeah,
all.
I just want to make a comment. Yeah.
If your parents are trying to see if maybe they can try to negotiate something, have them contact Fernando. Fernando's going to let you know about our office site, that where the people can come in person if they can't use the computer. My mom doesn't uses her smartphone, but only uses it to text, right? So just let them know, and they can come by and speak to him. And one of the things that we offer is free mediation services for both tenants and for property owners through certified mediators that can come and try to come up with some agreement. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have Fernando call and see if maybe, right? The worst they can say is no. The best they can say is, okay, let's take a look at it.
These are just questions people ask on a regular basis. So, what if somebody all of a sudden, they've been running it somewhere for 5 years, and all of a sudden now they have a pet rental fee and a new parking fee that they didn't have before? Is that allowed?
The pet fee, if the deposit has already been paid for that, they can't add, is it an emotional support animal? Just a pet? So they could charge a deposit. Now, if it was an emotional support animal, then no.
And the second part was the parking, and they all of a sudden start charging $100 parking.
So they can do that. But it has to be within the contract. It has to be at a lease end, and it has to be an attachment to the actual lease. You have to sign for that. You have to agree to it. But before you agree to it, before you sign for it, it's still time to negotiate. You can still say, I don't use that parking. I don't want to be charged with parking. That's the time to try to do it before you sign for it.
Did you have to sign?
Before they can take effect, yes, you have to agree to that because it has to be attached to the lease.
Can a private landlord evict somebody because they want to rent the home or apartment to a family member?
They can. There are a lot of things that they have to follow in order to make that legal. They can't just, I guess in the past, landlords have lied, didn't have an actual family member, or they didn't stay there very long. So there are a lot of things to this where they have to stay there for at least 5 years. That person has to live there for 5 years. If they do not, if they leave, that renter that was pushed out, evicted, would actually have first, I guess you say first crack at it, if they are still interested. But technically, yes.
In terms of the rental registry, I wanted to ask, are these public records? And if they are, what are your guys' thoughts in terms of public safety? People being able to access these records, it could be a detriment to safety. So I'd just like to hear your thoughts.
So as of this moment, our rental registry is not public. Now, just some inside knowledge, if we were to publish that, the ordinance states that we have to redact identifying information. Because if we were to look up, let's say, your primary home's parcel number, right? I can find out your address, your primary address if it's a rental, etc., through county records. So that's technically public information. For our registry, we don't publish that, we don't give that out to anybody, and even if someone were to submit a public records request, we are required to redact any identifying information. So as of right now, the ordinance that was adopted and started in 2023 for rental registry considered that fact as far as public safety and making sure that that information is not public and available to everyone. To go back to your question, for if an individual can be evicted for a family member, again, like you mentioned, they would need to live there for a specific period of time, depending upon, they would have to live there for a specific amount of time. And the other thing that we also need to remember for the city of Salinas, they would need to pay 3 months of relocation as well.
No, this is great information, and it's hard to keep up on the numbers and resources and all that. Would this be available, like a presentation, like an email or a recording for us, just in case?
So we could post that onto our site that we have, and you could access it through that. You could look at it again. But we also provide the information in other ways. And then you could always give us a call if you also wanted to know more. We could go over that with you. We have paperwork, different things that we can hand out to you, so you can also have that with you.
And then also a lot of the resources that we've talked about tonight and a lot of information is on our website at salinas.gov. If you go to the main page, we actually have a link that's on the main page because we are probably one of the most talked about divisions within housing in our city. We are currently working on updating the page. That way it's simpler to use and also has a lot of common scenarios like what if you're getting evicted, or what if you're removing your rental unit from the market, what you need to do. But a lot of that information is on our website already. And then of course, if you call into us or email us, we're always available to talk to you about anything that you do want to talk about.
There's some, I see here that some of you look like seniors. I work for legal services for seniors. I'm an attorney. I'm not ambulance chasing, just letting you know that you can call us. We do offer services at no cost to client, and we absolutely do 1110 or more. I don't see those there.
You're on our website, so yeah, okay.
And we can add you to the next presentation. We can just give Fernando the information.
You guys are located on Ragsdale?
Yeah, Thomas Owens Way. Upper Ragsdale area, yeah.
I'm a senior, and I have gone through senior legal services a few times. When I got evicted, I lost my housing. I was on it 34 years. So I ended up homeless and had nowhere to go. And I called Senior Legal Services, and the girl helped me and gave me a paper saying that I was discriminated against. And because of them, I got my Section 8 back in 3 weeks. And it took me 8 months to find a rental because I heard they had given out a lot of housing vouchers at that time, and a lot of people were having a hard time finding a place. But the hotel I was staying at, I asked them if I could use them, for collateral, for confirmation that I was staying there for a long time. And they said yes, and that helped me to get this place because every other place I was being denied. And so I'm just really thankful for them. They're a good service. They really do help you, and they really do make a way for you. Thank you.
Just a shameless plug, since you did mention homelessness, we do have an awesome homeless services manager and an awesome team that does help with anyone that is facing homelessness, whether you might be getting evicted or are already homeless. Again, you can always call us. I know that a lot of people believe that we're too busy to talk to you, but we're not. We do a lot, especially within housing, but we always will take the time to make sure we speak to anybody, anywhere, at all times. So if you are experiencing homelessness, if you are having issues with habitability of your home, if you just have questions, as I've continued to say, I am here for you, my team is here for you. We are available to help all of you. I don't care if you're a landlord, a tenant, or just someone who's curious. We answer your questions and try to find solutions for everybody.
Disculpe, hay una pregunta, como dice que la ciudad puede ayudar. Yo sé de una familia que tienen 2 hijos. La muchachita creo se ve como de algunos, será 13, y el niño como unos 9. Y se me hace que duermen en la calle. Entonces, pero ellos pues como no son residentes ni ciudadanos, entonces no buscan ayuda. Los podrían ayudar ahí.
She knows a family that has 2 children, and currently right now they have nowhere to live. They may or may not be documented to be here in this country. So the question is, do you still provide services whether or not they are or are not documented?
I don't have a complete answer, but our street outreach team, or excuse me, Salinas outreach and response team, as well as our homeless services division, would definitely be able to help. I know that, especially within housing, we get a lot of different grants from the federal government to help with homelessness and prevent it as well. So we can definitely get that family connected. That way we can see what we can do for them.
Well, thank you everybody for coming tonight. I really want to thank Juanes, Laura, Christina, Fernando, David. Sorry, I didn't catch your name. Cynthia, for being here. I can attest to, Mr. Montgomery as well. I can attest to the responsiveness of our housing department. Sometimes people send me their lease or their questions, and they've always said they helped me through the process or they answered my questions. So big props to all of you. I know there was this one gentleman who wasn't sure that the city would be able to step up, and I think he sent me a message from Aquinas that said, send me your ledger so I can verify that those increases were taken away, and it's really suitable. So thank you very much to you. And yes, big props. And just another pitch, Eco Housing does help. I I think the only free legal support other than legal services for seniors, and thank you for coming. Hopefully we can include you in future presentations. And so, we're pushing to increase the funding for that legal aid because the reality is there's not a lot of enforcement locally for tenants. So big props to them. But just make sure you reach out, and my biggest encouragement for everyone is reach out to our housing department and ask questions and follow up. It's so easy for us to get frustrated and think there's no help out there, but you heard from this lady who shared her story. There is help out there, but you have to do your role too, and you have to get involved. And so we encourage you to also, at the next meeting, you can come to the next one just like this and bring a friend or two, because we need the information to spread across our community for everybody. So thank you very much.
I want to thank everybody for being here. Gracias por venir. Mi nombre es Cristina y soy la directora, Executive Director de Eco Housing, y le doy gracias por venir. Por favor, si tienen cualquier pregunta, aquí estamos para servirles. I want to thank everybody for coming. My name is Cristina Soto and I am the Executive Director of Eco Housing. If you have any question, does not matter how small the question is, please reach out and call us. If you want to come and speak to Fernando in person, in October, we are going to be at the Impact Center through the United Way on Monterey Street. Monterey Street. He will be there in person 3 days a week for anybody that has any questions. We also have a phone number for you to get a hold of us. Fernando has his email. Fernando has many cards, because I bought them for him, and to pass out. So si necesitas, quieres venir en persona, vamos a estar aquí en este edificio en octubre. Pero si necesitas hablar con Fernando, él tiene sus cartas para darte con su número, con su correo electrónico, para que nosotros te podamos ayudar con cualquier cosa que necesitas.
And real quick plug, the whole presentation will be on YouTube also, because Wes White is here, so reach out to him and get his YouTube channel, and you can subscribe and see all kinds of this stuff online.
Thank you, Wes.
And I've also brought a sign-in sheet if you wanted to get in contact with us. Leave us your name and number and email if you choose to before you leave. That way you know who to contact and ask us any questions that you have about rent stabilization, rental registration, or anything housing related.
And I want to thank all of you guys for coming and being patient with us today. This is really nice to see everybody here, hear all the questions. We're going to keep on doing these workshops so that we can bring this awareness to more people. That way we can make this better. If there's no last questions, I want to wish you guys a wonderful evening. And don't forget to pick up some stuff, some information from the Housing Resource Center. And we also have some stuff on our Echo table before you leave. And have a nice night. Thank you guys. Thank you.